Hello, my name is David with Entertechnics, and today we're going to talk about some of the features of PyroMetrix version 255. Alright, the first thing we're going to talk about is the fire button. And so right now we're going to fire ASG1 with path 1, and you can select your ASG and the path you want to see associated with it. And so right now we'll just go ahead and do ASG1 and path 1, and we'll go ahead and fire that. Alright, and so here is our signal. The green, as you can see, is the AST, the yellowish orange is the ASR, and a little harder to see is the filtered signal back there, which is in blue. And if you look down here, we have our AST event, and that's when it occurs, our ASR event in the same style. And again, as you can see, we have ASG1 associated with path 1, and that's associated with ASR1. And right here we have our path length, and followed by the temperature output right here. Alright. And if we move down to AST signal here, we can get a good look at just the AST signal, and we can zoom in on when the event actually happened. That's a pretty good look at it, and so the signal could have been a little bit better, but one step before it caught it, not too bad. And again, we have our AST event down here, and we still have a reference to the ASR event, the raw time of flight, and the path that was associated with it. And if we look down here to the ASR signal, we have the same features we had in the ASG signal, but for the ASR signal. So again, we can zoom in if we choose. And the same goes down here for the filtered ASR signal. That previous signal was pretty good, so the filtered signal is not too different, but essentially we filter the signal and get a better look at where the event actually occurs. Alright, and so looking up here to load, save, and process signal. So we have the option right now, if we wanted to, we could save that previous signal that we just got. We won't do that right now, but we could. And then we also have load signal, so if we have a previously saved signal, we have the option to load it back in. And if we would like to, we could process it. Right now, if you don't have a preloaded signal in there, it's just going to look at the last saved signal. And so we're looking at our signal that we just looked at before. But yeah, and you can look through all of the other paths that were associated with that last shot, which we can see right here. Now looking at view trend, this is actually a trend log, and it allows us to look at a path or zone and see what the temperature was over a period of time. So right now we have it set up to look at path 1 or zone 1. We'll go ahead and look at path 1. And so over the course of the last hour, we can see, as you can see, the temperature here is on the left, time on the bottom. And we can see how the temperature correlates with the time over this time period, over the last hour. And again, we have a cursor feature here that we can move around and read the temperature with that. And we can choose a different time period. So we can do all the data available, the last 100 days, the last week, the last 24 hours, the last 12 hours. Last 6 hours, and as you can see, this is simulated data that we're just ramping the temperature up and down. And so yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but a very useful feature. Alright, if we go over here to opensetup.csv, this gives us access to all of our setup parameters and everything. And so right now we're looking at this constants tab, and these are just the program constants, and they include things like the max and min temperatures and the number of cold counts and average counts and things like that, and some of the thresholds. The inputs are basically all of our hardware inputs along with the parameters that go along with those. Sequencing is pretty much the time between shots. Paths, this is where we correlate our ASRs and ASGs to paths, and also includes some more hardware settings. The leak channels let us view the noise levels are for each ASR, and it allows you to set the threshold for those and the alarm level for them as well. And in ASG model params, it just is basically assigning the parameters for each model of our ASGs, 204 versus the 106. Moving up to the zone matrix, this is how we compile our zone information and how we make up each zone out of the paths. The directories are simply where we store all of our setup files and our logs. Analog outputs is where we assign each ASR, path, or zone to a given output, whether it be milliamp or voltage. Right now we have this set up for 8 channels, and we're doing it all 4 to 20 milliamp out. And we're doing paths 1 through 4, and then we're doing zones 1 through 4. And moving over to program constants, again, these are just more parameters that the program uses to define certain things inside of the program, and generally most of these settings shouldn't have to be messed with at all once the program is set up and installed, but you never know, and we might as well go over it. Alright. Another useful feature the program has is storing and saving log files. And if we look over here, so this is where we store all of our log files, and we have a couple different ones. They're essentially storing all the data that the program collects, and that's all defined within the parameters in the opensetup.csv portion of the program. And so if we want to look a little bit deeper into one of these, let's look inside the valid log here. And so I'll bring that up. And so as you can see, it's a little hard to tell, but basically we keep a record of everything that happens within the program. And so this is from when the program first started up, and it shows the cold count state, the rapid fire state, as well as the date and time. And then you get a look at each shot right here. So, you know, at 16:12:52 we fired ASG1, and it shows you all the temperatures for those paths that's associated with that ASG, as well as the zone temperatures. And you don't start collecting reliable data until after both ASGs are fired for the zones, so that's a more accurate look at some real data. So that's how each one of the logs work. They are all similar to this valid log, and they all collect their own information accordingly. Moving down to the ASR Spectrogram. This function performs a spectral analysis for the raw ASR signal, and as you can see, it gives you a pretty good look at where the event actually occurred. Sometimes this is helpful when the signal doesn't look too good to the naked eye. You can sometimes get a better look at where the event occurs inside of the spectrogram. And moving over to what is one of our more important features within the program, and that is Supervisor Mode. Now there are 2 different ways to enter Supervisor Mode, one being by clicking this button, and the other when you initially start up the program. You have about 14 seconds before the program automatically enters Supervisor Mode, and so let's go ahead and enter it. And as you can see, we instantly fire ASG1, and ASG2 is fired right after it. There it goes. And so now we have information from both ASGs, and now all of our paths have populated temperatures. And so this tab right now is the path table, and this is essentially just all of our temperatures from each path that you can view, along with the zones down below. And right now we have 6 zones defined, and we'll see those here in this block diagram. And as you can see, all of these temperatures are the same as they were in this path table. And right now we scale all the colors based on the temperature. And looking over at this 2D map display, we have a nice view of some interpolated data between the zones, and it gives us a nice look at where the hotspots are located and things like that inside of the program. And we have the ability to add contour lines to it. Let's go ahead and add 5 lines. And so there we go. Those pop up. It gives you a little bit more defined view. And we also have the ability to enable a user-defined cursor. And we can drag and drop that wherever we'd like. As soon as that comes up, each thing will come up after the most recent shot, and we can drag that around. And so in this area, it's 833 degrees. Very useful tool for looking around the boiler. And here we have our 3D isometric display. Again, same data as the 2D display, but in a 3D view. And we can move this around any way we'd like. And moving on to the path display, this just gives us a virtual look at how the paths are defined. And so right now we have all of our ASG1 over here on the left side and our ASG2 over here on the right side, and the paths corresponding to each one going out. And so we use these paths to define the zones, as you saw over in this block diagram, and so that's where that information comes from. And again, this is just a nice clean view of the path temperatures. And one more thing about the supervisor mode, if we go over here to the path table, again, we can see that down here under this leaks display, we can monitor the noise level of each ASR. Alright, so that's about all there is to the program. For more detailed information, you can always check our website and contact one of our engineers, and we'll be happy to talk to you, or consult the manual that you could also get through one of our engineers. So thanks for watching this video, and if you have any questions or concerns, please give us a call. Alright, thank you. Have a good day.